Start the jet.
Where do we begin this amazing piece of aviation? To start off, the Generation 2 Cirrus vision has captured the hearts of many here in the community. There was no intent to go corporate on this jet, rather a personal one. With what it offered pilots was a chance to step up in performance when compared to the SR20 and the 22. With simple functionality and ease of use, naturally ended up fitting the corporate world and numerous air taxi operations. A ballistic parachute, a maximum range of 1200 nautical miles, an airspeed of 300 knots with a life expectancy of 12,000 airframe hours. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest release yet in the category of business jets presented you from the team of FlightFX right here at Microsoft Flight Simulator for both PC and Xbox. The Cirrus Vision SF50, a popular jet in its category. Technology and performance enhancements elevate the SF50. Product improvement over the years has been key to success with an everlasting commitment from the engineering team. Of course, the whole aircraft parachute isn't a gimmick. Like a Cirrus piston aircraft, the jet features a handle that deploys a whole aircraft parachute, a last resort when things can go terribly wrong, and it has come to use, saving 129 lives. With a team who've been well known with their Honda jet brings the next installment to life at the sim. Long distance flying has been made possible. Now with the average run can be around 900 nautical miles, and if things are supervised very well, you can stretch that up to 1275 nautical miles, which can easily cover half the coast of the US. A jet that has reached the hearts of simmers in this category. Let's look at the modeling aspect here. A clean look with a great shell outside. At times, it does look a bit of a mini NASA spaceship to put it, especially with the white livery. While we're taking a good look from the outside, I don't seem to experience any stutters or micro stutters, which the team have worked on optimizing the performance in every possible way. 3 liveries are included, and these are actual Vision jet paint schemes. Towards the interiors, a very well furnished one. Feels more like a perfectly well-fitted glove with the placements of seats, instruments, the flight deck. At the first look from the pilot's seat gives somewhat of a surprise to see large screens here. It makes it rather easy to input commands with a responsive touchscreen. A quick comparison between the real thing and the flight model at the sim tells us on what exquisite detail the team have gone into for coverage. It's hard to tell the difference really here. The next section of the video gets into more detail of the systems. If you'd like to move next, feel free to do so. But I recommend you to stick around as this is such an interesting aircraft and you definitely need to know more and appreciate every bit of detail the team have strived to put in. Looking at the front display, we see the PFD, primary flight display on the left, the multifunction display, MFD. What appears to be a staple of general aviation aircraft these days is the twin panel display. There's no doubt these digital flight instruments have taken over the scene over the last decade, and with some useful tutorials out there on YouTube, things can be much more simpler. It's essential to get an understanding of how utilities have been integrated, makes flying a lot more easier and serves both as a learning tool for real pilots as well as a legitimate and a reasonably high fidelity interface, helping us navigate in the world of Microsoft Flight Simulator. The PFD is an important piece as we know it, consisting of critical information in order to operate the aircraft. Now the Vision jet contains custom CAS and warning messages that is found on the right hand side of the display. They are alerts and warnings that shows a yellow caution or a red warning indicator. Additionally, the radio frequency identifier can be found on the upper right corner showing us whom we are actually communicating with. The only limitation is towards non-center frequencies. The multifunction display on the right hand side consists of navigational detail, weather, terrain maps, the EIS meaning Engine Indication System, checklists and navigational charts. You do need a Navigraph subscription to get this feature active. Now FlightFX have added numerous custom pages that are VisionJet specific on the MFD, and something worth noting. The EID, Engine Indication Display, gives us a good picture on the engine and thrust performance, fuel flow, battery charge, landing gear, pitch and roll trim, flaps and cabin pressure. Checklists are another feature included, and there are more than 50 situational-based checklists. Every situation has a checklist, and the team have included 14 of the most common and typical checklists we would realistically use. To access this is to navigate to the checklist scroll wheel under the landing gear handle. You can simply operate the checklist from item to item using the scroll wheel and move to the next, and this is applicable only on the left-hand side of the MFD, showing only on split screen. Synoptic pages, a key piece to know how your aircraft is doing in different areas. From status and info, engine and fuel, electrical power, ice protection, and landing gear. Every one of these have been well detailed, and the sole function is to provide the crew with real-time information about the aircraft status on various functions and systems. What does a status and info do? It gives us key information on external power, temperatures, parking brake, weights, approximate takeoff and landing information, and tow status, which helps animate any notifications on the current aircraft state to the pilot. One place to know every bit and detail on the status. The next option is engine and fuel. It's imperative for pilots to sync the fuel on board before takeoff and on ground level to get the best indication of actual fuel levels. The top boxes are key here to know the level of fuel. Electrical power. This provides us real-time data on the aircraft's electrical currents, charging status and buses. What's more important is to know if there are any faults that can happen anytime, causing a CAS message to appear on the PFD. Ice protection. You guessed it right. It helps find the outside air temperature readings here and consists of key information on the aircraft's ice protection systems. Landing gear. The current state of the landing gear telling the pilot if the gear has been retracted down and locked or on the ground bearing weight. Now slightly below is a nicely made bolster switch panel that inevitably separates the displays holding different switches from the main electrical switch, light switches, speed heat, and anti-ice controls for the aircraft. Right on the panel are a number of switches from battery 1 and 2, the generator switch, alternator that supplies power to the ESS when the engine is running. Right next to it are the light switches that are essential, alerting the position of the aircraft, the heading or status, helping aid traffic control by identifying the aircraft's orientation. From strobe lights, landing lights, ice lights, and right next to it is the master oxygen switch, the switch that controls the supply. Let's hear the oxygen release as we turn it on. If you do need some fresh air, the ECS bleed air supply valve closes and ambient air from the air supply duct is directed to the cabin. The probe switch providing heat to the pitot probes, and the anti-ice switches that protects the engine inlet and the probes from ice buildup. Notice the natural way things function here. Doesn't really seem like a simulator at times when you're inside the aircraft. The Garmin touchscreen controller is placed on the left, stretching to the environmental control panel on the far right. I would suggest taking a look at the working title Discord to get into greater detail for the in and outs of the G3000. Plus, there are several help videos out there on YouTube to know this better. The MFD. As soon as you power on the battery 1, this will appear on the Garmin touchscreen controller where you can access the pages at any time by navigating to the utility buttons. The overall experience gets better when the steps are complete here before heading to your destination. The database status on the top right is linked to your Navigraph subscription if you have one. You can pull any available charts right into your MFD. The system tests are to perform the pre-flight tests, and you should be able to hear audible alerts for the fire system along with visual cues and warnings on the overhead panel. Initial fuel, where pilots are encouraged to sync fuel for truly accurate readings in the aircraft. Weights and balance. Now the aircraft derives all weight and balance calculations for other parts of the system, and currently they are calculated in pounds. Now a future update worth noting would be a metric format inclusion. Another section to note is the VAMS or Virtual Aircraft Management System, which controls most features which really can't be dealt in an interactive manner. Areas like statics, controlling static visuals of the aircraft, luggage, which gives the preset luggage configuration options in the luggage compartment, status, helping choose the type of aircraft states you would want to begin with. Bose, which controls the function and visuals of Bose headphones. Config, that essentially controls the seating layout of the cabin. Now Bose is a feature which VisionJet comes with its own custom active noise cancellation system, and this can be engaged right from the cockpit, a feature well made by FlightFX themselves, and to activate it, enable both the headphones and active noise reduction. Once you press the button, voila, everything seems to be quiet, like a library in midair. On the far left, right above the yoke, is the engine start panel. Quite a nice little place to have something important to begin your journey that's more convenient. A simpler manner to start your aircraft with ease, and I can't agree more with what the team state. One of the easiest aircrafts to start. Very simply, twist the knob from off to run, then depress the engine start-stop button, and the entire process is automated by the aircraft's onboard systems. Below the switch panel are few things that are key, from the parking brake, placed right below the touchscreen controller, to the autopilot control panel. Now something to note is that the autopilot is based off the existing limitations set by the sim. On the center console comes the auto throttle control panel that works in both managed speed mode, MAN mode, and FMS. The fuel control panel is placed right below, which gives the option to switch tanks when needed, and typically the fuel control switch is set to auto, allowing the aircraft to self-regulate the balance of fuel between its wing tanks. On the left-hand side of the pilot's seat, we do see cabin lighting controls and the Hobbs meter tracking the flying hours in the aircraft. The front side of the aircraft was certainly interesting. Let's move to the back seat, a more comfortable section to unwind and enjoy the scenery while you're in the air. Comes with 3 different configurations, from the family size, a 7-seat combination that has a narrow main row with armrests. The complete setup with a 7-seat that's slightly larger on the main row with no armrests, and the executive one with a 2-seat combination and slightly larger main row seating plus removable center console. The exterior door handle is a functional one, operating the main cabin door. A simple click should help open and close the door when needed. Now, one convenient feature at the VisionJet is the auto close feature, which enables during pre-flight if you forget to close. What do we have at the ceiling here? A business jet must keep us engaged somehow, and the drop-down display certainly does its job. An entertainment display, but don't expect any movies to be played here at the sim. On the far end of the aircraft, if you're wondering if there's a toilet, because it's a jet, it actually doesn't have one due to its smaller size. With the interiors all checked, what do we have next? Of course, the startup with engine sounds, and let's take a good listen to it. A multitude of custom sounds have been recorded on site with professionals working long hours, and every bit and detail have been captured. Wondering what all have been covered in sounds? These are not default sounds. From the ground power unit to the mechanicals, all the way to the buttons, switches and knobs, giving that authentic feel to it. The placement of the engine is interesting here, and the design can make it bird-proof. Now the engine also helps the plane to fly low and slow, that reduces fuel burn, allowing the plane to airports that other private jets really can't. Taking off with 70 gallons on board, we were off to reach the skies when we reached 90 knots, and with ease on this jet. Every detail has been paid good attention here, and these are things that matter. Makes a difference to the experience. Now there are times you can find other models from different teams which have a great exterior, but quite the opposite in terms of expectations on systems and behaviors. I do believe, without a doubt, the team of FlightFX have done a remarkable job here. The depth of interest these folks have towards flight modeling have been clearly portrayed at the sim. It's a PC and an Xbox release, and very well priced at $25. That comes with 3 liveries. Of course, we have third-party freewares if you'd like more liveries. And quite frankly, I never knew the price point here. This model was received as a preview copy, and my thought was possibly $50 in the beginning. To my surprise, this was half the price at $25, which has a very good pricing structure if you ask me. We truly can't stop admiring this jet of a kind here at Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, one of the recent additions to the sim which have been interesting has been the offshore landmarks pack from Aerosoft. Do take a look as we have previewed it and we're thoroughly impressed with it. We hope you like this video. There is absolutely so much more coming towards the sim, and do subscribe to get notified. It's been a true pleasure. Until next time, do take care.